Have you ever achieved something you worked years for, only to discover that the feeling you expected never really arrived? Not disappointment exactly, just a quiet confusion. A sense that something is missing, even though, on paper, everything looks right. Lucas, a middle-aged man, after many years of hard work, has finally bought his own apartment. For him, it's a significant milestone, marking stability and the fruits of his tireless efforts. Living alone in his new space, Lucas sometimes felt lonely. His life gradually became more vibrant as he got to know his neighbors, including a girl living in the apartment next door with a gentle and friendly demeanor. These new relationships brought him a sense of closeness and renewed confidence in his choice. Lucas felt reassured. This place could become home. Not perfect, but lived in. Not loud, but shared. And yet, slowly, something else entered the picture. Not dramatically, not all at once, just small interruptions. Sounds traveling through old walls. Rhythms of other lives brushing against his own. At first, Lucas dismissed them easily. This was city living. This was normal. This was the price of belonging somewhere real. But when we tell ourselves something is normal, what we often mean is that we don't yet know how it makes us feel. And Lucas was beginning to sense that the very space meant to bring him peace was asking something from him he had not anticipated. As the days settled into routine, Lucas began to notice how often his attention drifted away from what he was doing. It wasn't the sounds themselves that disturbed him. It was what they did to his inner state. Lucas had believed this apartment would be a place of rest. Instead, it required constant adjustment. And adjustment, when it becomes endless, quietly exhausts the nervous system. Wanting to be fair, Lucas spoke with his neighbors. These conversations were calm, respectful, almost rehearsed. What he learned surprised him in its ordinariness. The building was old. The walls were thin. The sounds were not intentional, not personal, not directed at him. Everyone had adapted in their own way, accepting the trade-off as part of living there. This information should have brought relief. Instead, it created a subtle sense of isolation. Lucas wondered if he was expecting too much, if his desire for quiet was unreasonable, if the discomfort meant something was wrong with him rather than the environment. Lucas did not feel angry. He felt uncertain. And uncertainty, when prolonged, erodes confidence more effectively than conflict ever could. He attempted compromise, noise-canceling habits, adjusted schedules, small rituals meant to reclaim a sense of control. For brief periods, they worked, but the underlying tension remained. His body stayed alert, listening even when he wanted to rest. Home began to feel less like a refuge and more like a place that required constant negotiation. That nothing about the situation looked dramatic from the outside. There were no arguments, no confrontations, no clear villain. Just a quiet mismatch between what Lucas needed and what the space could offer. This is often how emotional fatigue grows silently. Lucas noticed a deeper discomfort surfacing, not about the noise, but about what the noise represented. A loss of agency, a reminder that achieving a goal does not guarantee emotional safety. That some dreams are built on assumptions we never pause to question. And so, without fully realizing it, Lucas found himself at a crossroads familiar to many adults. Continue enduring something that slowly drains him, or risk letting go of a dream he worked so hard to claim. The turning point did not arrive through a dramatic confrontation. There were no raised voices, no decisive ultimatums, no moment that could be easily labeled as a breaking point. Instead, it came in the quiet hours of reflection, when exhaustion finally stripped away the need to justify everything. That day, Lucas sat alone in his apartment, the city breathing softly beyond the windows. The familiar sounds moved through the walls again, but this time he didn't tense. He listened differently, not with irritation, but with curiosity. He noticed how his body responded before his thoughts did, how his shoulders tightened, how his breathing shortened, how his attention scattered. It was a physical realization, not an intellectual one. In psychology, clarity often arrives when we stop asking, "How do I fix this?" and begin asking, "What is this asking of me?" For Lucas, the answer was unsettling in its simplicity. The apartment was not wrong. The neighbors were not wrong. But neither was he. The mismatch itself was the message. He realized how much of his identity had become tied to this space. The apartment had transformed from a home into a symbol of perseverance, of delayed gratification, of having finally reached a socially approved milestone. Letting go of it felt dangerously close to letting go of meaning. And yet, staying meant continuing a subtle form of self-abandonment, one he had grown practiced at over the years. And then, Lucas allowed himself to imagine a different outcome. Not failure, not retreat, but choice. What if leaving did not mean he had misjudged his life? What if it meant he was finally listening to it? The next days unfolded gently. There was no rush. He revisited conversations with neighbors, noticing how kind they had been, how none of them had asked him to sacrifice himself for the sake of harmony. The pressure to endure had come from within, from a belief that maturity meant tolerating discomfort indefinitely. Saying goodbye was unexpectedly emotional. These people had witnessed his arrival, his optimism, his quiet efforts to belong. When Lucas shared his decision, there was understanding, not judgment. In that moment, he felt something shift inside him, relief mixed with grief, loss intertwined with self-respect. After the apartment was emptied and the door closed one last time, Lucas noticed that his worth had not diminished. The years of effort had not vanished. The dream had simply changed shape. Lucas was not running from discomfort. He was moving toward coherence, toward a life where his internal rhythms mattered as much as external achievements. In that recognition, the noise lost its power. It had never been the true antagonist. It was only the signal, the invitation to stop measuring success by how much one can endure, and to begin measuring it by how deeply one can rest. For the first time in a long while, Lucas felt quiet not around him, but within him. When we look at Lucas's story from a distance, it may seem simple. A man buys an apartment. He realizes it doesn't suit him. He leaves. But psychologically, what unfolds beneath that simplicity touches something many people carry silently. The film leaves a powerful message. Pay attention to the aspects of your life that are more noisy than necessary. Recognize what you endure out of habit, not intentionally. Ask yourself if the dreams you are protecting are still protecting you. Choosing peace does not erase effort. It honors it. It means trusting that your well-being is not a reward you must earn, but a foundation you are allowed to build upon. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is redefine what success sounds like. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more reflective stories that explore psychology, growth, and the quiet truths of modern life.